rise of Andrew Tate is purely down to parenting failure, and here's why.
I'm the bad guy.
Duh.
Hey guys, your boy Buck says back again for another video this week. Here we have the difficult conversations that no one else in society is having. And if I can go without being called a top G for the rest of my life, I would be extremely grateful, because I've been called it a lot more times than I would have liked in the past 2 months. And that coincides with the rise of one man, Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is symptomatic of the new world order we live in with the World Wide Web. And it's that whole thing of snake oil salesmen and pyramid scheme merchants marketing themselves in a really comedic way with really, really stupid and dangerous views. And because it's masked in that whole it's masked in humour and it's masked in a character, it comes across as very funny and slapstick, which engages younger viewers, right? And I guess I don't really have an issue if you're 18 plus watching Andrew Tate, because I think you're old enough and developed enough to make up your mind on what type of a man he is. What I'm really concerned about is the fact that parents don't know who their kids are watching. This is a man who is very dangerous, and all he's out to do is use your children as a product to sell his ideology. And his ideology is probably not even his ideology, it's probably this amped up version of him, but it's easily turned into profits, especially when he basically exploits the insecurities of young men and young women. And it's just mass marketing. Now, listen, my personal views on the man is he is a genius mass marketer who is exceptional at corralling people into his cause, i.e. people to share his content, and he knows exactly what to put, the finger on the pulse type stuff, right? And this is the concern, right? He is obviously banned recently from most private platforms, and I kind of agree with that, with private terms of services, and they've got shareholders to answer to. What I don't get is the same thing when you ban Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump, again, in that similar mold, a guy who holds supremely dangerous views, but holds himself in a very character-based way, i.e. acts like a buffoon, much like Boris Johnson, right? We live in that era where if you're funny, you can get away with stuff, right? Andrew Tate is a guy who, I'm sure out of the 100 things he says, right, 2 or 3 things may resonate with some people. They may be right. Some of the stuff he says, it maybe is correct, right? If he says that, I think women should be good mothers and raise their children and spend time with their children, that's a good point. But 99% of the stuff he says is absolute rubbish. And if you throw 100 darts, then maybe one will stick. But the guy is dangerous, and he's dangerous for your children, and he's not dangerous for your older children, he's dangerous for your developing children. And why is he dangerous? Well, kids are very impressionable, right? Kids are scrolling and consuming content at an alarming rate. And when they see something funny, someone with funny intonation, someone with a catchphrase, they will automatically latch onto it. And do you know why they will latch onto it? Shall I tell you the main reason why? It's time. Kids are always looking for a hero. They're looking for this substitutable figure, aren't they? They're looking for someone's validation. They're looking for someone's guidance, someone's purpose. And we're not filling that void enough, right? I find it so annoying when we blame children that are younger for sitting there on iPads, phones, all this stuff. They're only sitting there because they don't have any other viable substitute. They don't have, people don't take them to the park. There's no way to engage them with arts and crafts. Kids are not engaged. And so they look for dangerous heroes elsewhere. And they are very dangerous, especially when it's unvetted. You're not watching the thousands of reels that your kid is watching. And so the rise of Andrew Tate is purely down to parenting failure, right? You've got eyeballs on him, very young eyeballs, because people aren't bothered investing time in their own kids. Maybe because of how tired society makes us, maybe because of this. But there's no excuse. There's no excuse to allow your kid to find a substitutable hero for you, whose views are very much aligned to creating very incel-like type people, right? And that's the true fact of it is, right? It's people that are very insecure in their position in society, men that are insecure in terms of their power dynamics with women, women that are insecure in how they can be seen in front of a man in terms of, how much of themselves they should offer up both emotionally and physically. And so you've got young women thinking that they should be objects. You've got young men thinking that women are objects. And the whole thing is pretty stupid, and all it derives from is a character who probably doesn't hold those exaggerated views, at least in that fashion. But really, privately, I'm sure he does hold some pretty stupid views. But really and truly, he knows that now 50% of the world is up for a funny slapstick character who has very dangerous legaries in a time with kind of the Me Too movement and cancel culture. And it's the same thing I said to my friends. When you ban Donald Trump, you cut that head off and 3 more will rise, right? Because someone will always take the place. There will always be someone to ban. How do we move past that, right? How do we move past giving a plinth to people that have no right to have a platform or no right to air dangerous views? How do we as a society stop that? I don't think we possibly can, but I think what we can do is at a micro scale focus on our own kids, right? Because as I said to you, it's become a network externality. Posts shared on social media, clips that really get taken out of context, clips that make people look good. You know, it's so easy to edit a clip in a fashion that a child will be very engaged, that a child will think that this person is there to guide them, to be honest with them. You know, especially in, our community where we don't talk about relationships openly with children, we don't talk about the power dynamics between men and women. For someone to come there that is, in some senses good looking, polished, in peak physical condition, drives a Bugatti, gives this notion of how his life is so perfect, you will think that the guy actually has some sort of credibility. Well, we need to start exploring our credibility amongst our own children now. And I don't think we do that enough. What we do is we throw stuff at them. And this video isn't so much about Andrew Tate, right? Because we now live in a world of polarity. We now live in a world of extremes. And extremes are now rewarded. I do the same, even falling into the pitfalls with YouTube now is so difficult. I mean, you've seen my video titles, divorced under a year, why you should never have kids. In many ways, some of the views that I talk about are not views that I necessarily hold. They're just engagement discussion points. But I feel I need to title the videos so that they can get some form of engagement and I can get my point out there, right? I do think Kids Love Andrew Tate, and then this is probably one of my most accurate video titles because kids are always looking for something to love. They're looking for something to do. They're looking for something to engage their brains, and we're not engaging them well enough at the moment. We're making them drones, and we're now not just making them drones, very dangerous drones that hold stupid views. I tried to ask some kids the other day, why do they like Andrew Tate, right? And the first thing that they will say to me is, I say, do you agree with his views? And be like, I agree with some of them. And that's the problem, isn't it? Because even for an 18 plus year old, even for me, whatnot, sometimes I find myself watching so much content from dangerous people, seeing like clips of Trump, seeing clips of Biden, clips of Johnson, and you see these clips that are kind of taken out of context and they're memed, and then when they're memed, they have a humorous element to them. And with humour, you start to feel some form of kinship with people because it's funny, it makes you laugh, it releases serotonin, right? With kids, I can recognise that from the outside in, and kids will take a lot longer to process that, and they'll make a lot of mistakes processing that. We need to take a step back, and we need to start watching what our kids watch. We don't do that. And more importantly than watching what our kids watch, actually, we need to offer our kids substitutes. We need to offer our kids information. I think what Andrew Tate and other people like that have proved about children is that children are no longer, they're now growing at such an alarming rate. And actually, they want to have these conversations. They want to talk about real things. They don't want to sit around playing games. They want someone to talk to. They want someone to lead. You got to be that person to lead, right? You've got to take control of your child's life. You've got to give them a substitute that isn't Andrew Tate, that isn't Donald Trump, and then maybe society can head in a direction that's a bit better than where we're heading now. And that's what Bucks has to say for this week.